Hi everybody, and welcome to Don't Panic, Life After Etsy Wholesale. I'm Nelson Ruger, and this is my partner Amy.
I'm Amy.
And we are part of High Seas Treehouse. We are the minds behind Nelson Makes Art, which is a lifestyle brand built around the art of Nelson Ruger. That's me. So in 2015, I reconnected with a former high school classmate, Amy. Amy saw what I was doing on Etsy. She thought it was pretty cool. Hey, he's doing these cool hand-painted glasses and he's making awesome watercolor paintings. So now, 2018, Amy and I are business partners in High Seas Treehouse LLC, of which Nelson Makes Art is the DBA. Amy brings all of the business savvy to our company that we could possibly need with a ton of experience. She is my wizard of smart.
When I joined Nelson in 2015, it was a ton of fun. It was great reconnecting, and it's been a wild ride since. We have grown far faster than we expected. Having been in retail for the last 20 years of my career, this has been a great opportunity to work with not only a really good friend, but a great brand and something that I'm passionate about as an artist myself. And to just work with something really, really cool, to take a small product and see it expand into larger retailers and just outside of the small maker world, outside of Etsy, and into licensing and a lot of other opportunities, so that we can't even talk about here, and to be able to help other makers, and to see it in places like Amazon and our own website store and things like that we just, 3 years ago never thought was going to happen. So it's been a lot of fun.
We've been having so much fun that we've ended up launching our own store on Shopify and doing incredibly well there. We still are active in Etsy, we still have a store there, we still have a presence there, and we're proud to be a part of that maker community. But we're even more proud to be doing this on our own, to be doing this without the support of a middleman, to be doing this without needing some third party to get in the middle and match us up with a buyer. We're out there every single day doing this on our own, and we're doing just fine, and we're doing great, and we want you to do the same thing. So now there are lots of other services out there right now. You're seeing tons of third parties showing up saying, hey, we'll be your new broker. Hey, we'll help marry you with your buyers. Hey, we're gonna give you a new platform to post your stuff. And that's awesome and that's amazing, and I'm not even remotely saying that that's not something that you shouldn't check out. You should look at it. Heck, we might even put our stuff up on one of them just to see what happens. But I also think it's a really, really good idea that you get out there and do it yourself. Give it a try. Because chances are you can do it without needing the middleman, because we have. We have done it without needing the middleman.
So I just want to add to that not only can you do it on your own, but I built my career working with Fortune 50 and Fortune 500 companies. I worked with Campbell's and I worked with Clorox and Kingsford and Coke and big giant brands for the first 20 years of my career. And it was an honor to work with all those brands and win awards with all those brands and learn tons of stuff working with them. But guess what? It's just as feasible to be able to get there and get into those retailers and have relationships with those buyers with small brands like ours. You don't have to be a big giant to be able to work with those kind of retailers. You can't, the buyers will talk to us too. So don't think that you can't. Be an owner of your own destiny and believe in yourself.
The only way you're ever going to do this is if you believe you can do it before anybody else. There's going to be a lot of people that tell you you can't. There's going to be a lot of people that tell you you need that third party. But you can do this. Because if we can, you absolutely can. Okay, so without waiting too much longer, let's go ahead and dive into our 6 easy steps for surviving life after Etsy Wholesale. Now remember, we've attached a document to the bottom of this. It's a PDF. It's pretty thorough. It's a good sized PDF document. We hope you like it. If you're having any problems with it, or if you have any further questions throughout this whole thing, don't hesitate to shoot us an email or a chat with us or something like that on Facebook or Instagram or any of those things. Just reach out, Ask us questions. We want to help you do this because we've had a great time doing it so far. All right, 6 easy steps to surviving life after Etsy
So we'll start
Wholesale.
out talking about exporting your customer list from Etsy. So to start out, you really want to make sure that you want to have hold of all of your customers. We recommend that you download all of your customer list so that you can make sure that you can communicate with them immediately. Don't wait till Etsy releases the information and that they're going to be closing down wholesale, and don't rely on them to communicate that information. You're going to want to make sure that you have all of your customers in your own database. If you're not already using your own newsletter software like MailChimp or any of those types of newsletter software or database management, make sure that you get one. So go ahead and download all of that. All of that information is there in your past sold orders. Export them as a CSV, and then it'll be very, very easy to import them back into any type of newsletter type software so that you can immediately go ahead and turn right back into communicating with them, which is going to be step 2, which is going to be telling them immediately that Etsy is no longer going to be doing wholesale, but you are. So there's no reason why they cannot still continue to buy from you. And your payment terms are what they are, and you will be able to process their payments and continue to do business with them as you always have. We'll be including a template for you to be able to write that letter, and a couple of different options for you. We personally use MailChimp, but there's lots of other really great newsletter software companies out there, from free to paid services.
The template that we're including in the attached document should allow you to write pretty much any retailer, but remember to really try and tailor that letter to their interests, your interests, and your personality. That is super important that that comes through, because you don't want to just be some kind of a robot or some kind of person who's not actually associated with your company, or someone who's not an expert in your company. You're the expert in your company. You're the expert in what it is that you make. So you want to make sure that that letter really comes through with that. So take that template, really personalize it, and don't hesitate to reach out to us if you need some help with it.
Make sure that you're controlling your own destiny. Etsy is great. It's been a great company, and it was amazing that they supported all of us makers for all the years that they did, and that they offered wholesale for as long as they did, and allowed us to, as makers, to be able to expand our business into that wholesale world, if for some of us that already weren't doing that, to get our feet wet in it. But own your own destiny, and don't wait for them to be the communicators of that destiny. Over to wholesale, and how are you going to control that from here on your own? Some of you have your own website, some of you don't. We personally use Shopify. We've had it for a long, long time outside of Etsy. We had Squarespace prior to that. We moved over to Shopify, actually, I'd say a long, long time. It's because I have other brands that also do it, that I've been managing for a long, long time. Our shop has had it for over a year now. And there are apps, multiple different apps. It used to be rather expensive. I've heard lots of other makers say it used to be too expensive and way too difficult. There are multiple app overlays with Shopify that make it very, very easy to use. And we have included in our downloads with this video a list of some of them. It makes it very, very easy that you can have your regular customers and then your wholesale customers log right in, so you can continue doing business just like it was before. You shouldn't have to have any hiccups in your business for your existing wholesale customers and for new wholesale customers. There's even line sheet generators, things like that, that will automatically, the line sheet generators even free with the Shopify app. So there's a lot of different options with Shopify, and I know that there's a couple of other websites out there that do the same thing.
Let's talk for a minute about what kind of platform you're going to pick for where you're going to put your store. Now, you might still have a store on Etsy. That's great. It's probably worked for you so far as a maker. Awesome. Keep it there. But if you're looking for where to go next and for where you're going to sell wholesale next, you need to start to consider what your real options are. There are things out there like Squarespace, there's Wix, there's Shopify, WooCommerce, that sort of thing. It's a lot of research, it's a lot of data, and there's a lot of mixed signals going on, so I can only tell you what we've done so far and what's really worked well for us. First of all, we started with Squarespace. Squarespace was awesome for when I was first getting a start. It's easy to use, it's drag and drop, the data is incredibly easy to input, it looks really, really nice. It's really, really simple. And in the end, that's why we left it. Squarespace didn't allow us a whole lot of flexibility in analytics without a whole lot of extra fees that we weren't really interested in paying and not getting a lot of data for in the end anyway. So long story short, about a year ago, we made the choice to jump over to Shopify. Now, here's the thing with Shopify. Shopify is not drag and drop. Shopify is not user-friendly at the outset. Shopify doesn't have things like really, really pretty, easy to write blog spaces or anything like that. Everything is pay to play. So if you want like a really, really pretty blog, chances are you're gonna have to pay a couple of bucks to get that blog template. If you want a really, really pretty store, you may have to go ahead and buy that template unless you're good with coding, in which case you're rock solid. If you like learning and you like coding, Shopify is awesome. I bought mine. Honestly, it wasn't that expensive and my store looks great. Here's the big advantage to Shopify though. Shopify has apps. With those apps, you can pretty much buy any feature you want for your store. And I'm talking about, like Amy mentioned, the wholesale line sheet generators. I'm also talking about a wholesale side to your store. I'm also talking about things to spiff up your blog. Like when you mention something in your blog, it'll automatically read it and then put related items at the bottom of it so they show up in your store so people can read about the jewelry you've made and then, hey, look at the bottom, there they are already for you. The really big thing that I like about it is it's flexible and it allows you to pretty much do just about anything you want and set it up any way you want. But it's hard and it takes time and that's okay. And we're here to help you and we would love to give you a hand with that and with any advice we can give you. And Shopify itself has a fantastic customer service platform. Now, I'm not being paid by Shopify. I've never really spoken to anybody outside of their gurus or anything like that, but I can tell you this. Their data, their analytics, and the store itself has never been better. So, think about it. It's a really, really good option, especially when it comes to the wholesale side. It gives you so much flexibility. It gives you so many options. Take a look at it. Take a look. Maybe Squarespace has an option like that too. Maybe Wix does as well. But we use Shopify.
Yeah. One other thing I'm going to add in about Shopify, having managed a few other brands as well, I'm going to tell you that Shopify also is probably the most user-friendly for some of you guys out there, some of the makers out there that are multi-platform users and sellers. So if you are connected to Amazon and you are connected to eBay and you are selling across multiple platforms, Shopify is one of the few out there that automatically links to all of those and will do inventory management with all of those. So that was another reason why we chose to do it that way. Because
earlier this year at Holiday, we made a last-minute decision to go ahead and get on Amazon. It took, what, about a day?
Yeah. So much
to get some of our stuff up there and linked. It was incredibly fast, it was incredibly slick, and we sold almost immediately. So it's a great way to integrate eBay, Amazon, tons of third-party source integration, which is as a seller what you're looking for.
And those things are all free, and it makes our lives a lot easier. There's also a lot of additional drop ship third-party manufacturers that are very useful in order to be able to expand your line. Not that we don't do a ton of that kind of stuff, but it's nice to have those third-party manufacturers for when you want to expand your line. So
we are currently aligned with a number of third-party manufacturers for things that we don't make, but we want to put our art on. So apparel, home decor, things like that. And the third-party integration in with Shopify it takes maybe like 10-15 minutes to set up. It's incredibly simple and straightforward, and usually 9 times out of 10 the customer service on those things is simply spectacular, and they really hold you by hand and take you through the process.
And again, we don't rep Shopify. We're not paid by them. This is it just happens to be knowledge that we have and recommendations that we can give. And I've worked with them with a couple of my other brands as well. So just so you know, it's not something we're being paid for. It's just a recommendation.
So step 4, exporting your Etsy data and importing it in somewhere else. For us, it's going to be Shopify. So if you have no experience in any kind of office documentation like Word, Excel, anything like that, you can still do this. It's okay. It is going to take a little bit of finagling on your part to figure it out. Personally speaking, I exported all of my entire store right out of Etsy, every single product that I had, and imported it right into my Shopify store. Now, I also spent a lot of time doing things like going through and removing the word Etsy from any of my listings so that it didn't look like I just went ahead and grabbed it from one place and put it in another, and that's usually a simple matter of using the find and replace feature that is in most Word and spreadsheet software out there. So you can go ahead and swap all that stuff out. It does take a while, and you do want to make sure that all that data is going to migrate over in a way that looks nice for you, but it's just spreadsheet time. Depending on how many items are in your store, it might not be a big deal. At the time when we did it, we had over 500 items in our store. For some of you, you're either going, oh my God, that's so many, and the rest of you are like, 500. I've got like 8 million. So, whichever one you are, it's totally plausible and totally doable. It's just gonna, the time ramps up the more items that you have. But it's totally easily done by just about anybody. It's far better for you to go ahead and have somebody else do it. Shopify has people you can hire that will do that stuff for you. They're called Shopify experts, and they go ahead and do that stuff. They're easy to find. You just pretty much Google Shopify expert, export, Etsy. And the other option is Shopify apps. So we've talked a little bit about the apps before. There are several apps that will grab your Etsy listings, some of them pictures and all, because if you just export the data into a spreadsheet, the pictures won't transfer over. But there are apps that will go ahead and grab your pictures and everything, reviews the whole thing, and just, boom, move it over to your Shopify store for you. Now, obviously, that's going to cost you money. So if you're on a shoestring budget, that might not be the option for you. I went ahead and chose to do it manually for several reasons, not least of which was I wanted to learn how Shopify worked from the inside out. I really wanted to dig in. I wanted to understand what the data was doing. I wanted to understand coding, all of that sort of thing. Some of it was incredibly successful, and I'm so glad I dug into it. Not all of it was. But for the most part, it was totally a worthwhile experience. And if you are really considering doing just transferring your listings over, I would strongly advise giving it a shot once. Try it. See if you think you can do it. We're including a whole breakdown in the document about how to do it yourself if you want to do it, as well as some other recommended apps that we've seen out there that might work really, really well for you. Give it a try. If it doesn't work, you're not going to break it. It's not like it's something you can't recover from. So, I suggest give it a shot.
And so is Nelson of the Wholesalers Sellers group for about 2 years now, and I've participated in a lot of conversations about wholesale rates and how do you price your wholesaling, and a lot of retailer discussions and pricing and about, well, my wholesaler is asking for more than 30%, or my wholesaler is asking for 50%, is that fair? Or they're asking for deeper discounts, a lot of different questions about that, or they're asking for an MSRP, is that normal? Things like that. I am more than happy to, I have 20 years in retail, in selling to retailers experience. I'm more than happy to answer any of those kinds of questions at any time. If anybody would like to know more about that kind of stuff, I've worked with retailers for a long, long time. And we have done lots of work with that ourselves as well. But there's a lot of very cool apps out there to do line sheet.
So line sheets. What are they? How do they work? So for the longest time, as a small maker, when I started out, just as a very small studio, hand painting glassware, making very small paintings. I had no idea what a line sheet was. I didn't want to know what a line sheet was. They seemed very complicated and scary and time consuming, and I was simply not interested. Amy went ahead and taught me that they're not really all that scary. They're just an Excel or a numbers document, and they're actually fairly easy to put together. Now, there are tons of different styles out there, and this is one place we haven't really gone into a lot of detail in the book because there's so many different ways to do it. My simple advice, if you want to try and build one yourself, is to go ahead and Google, how do I make a line sheet? There's lots of different ways to do them out there. Everybody's got a different style. There's templates you can download. Some of you can buy. It's totally fine. So now, not plugging for Shopify, but having been on Shopify for a while, I've got an app called the Wholesale Line Sheet Generator. The details are in the document if you want to have a look. It goes ahead and looks at your listings and can build a whole line sheet just for you. And it can be very specific or it can be very general. You can pick the items you want. It can be like your whole catalog. It can be just some things. And it's fast and it's pretty. Now, I will say it doesn't have a ton of flexibility. So if you're the kind of person who really wants to be able to pick exactly where your text goes and you want to be able to pick exactly what it says and what order it's in and everything, you might not be happy with this. But you get what you pay for and it's free. Personally, I'm really happy with it. I don't think I could find something that works very, very quickly and easily for me and works great for the level of wholesale that I'm at. But if you are a micromanaged person, you might want to have a look around. There are apps out there that you can buy, and remember they are usually subscription or single pay use. So you can go ahead and check those out and see which one works for you. Personally speaking, Wholesale Line Sheet Generator, man, it's quick, it's easy, and it's pretty. It looks really, really nice. So go ahead and check that out and see if it does anything for you. Line sheets are easy to do in Shopify. The Wholesale Line Sheet Generator features include things like MSRP option, it includes the discount that you're going to give the wholesalers, it includes the lead time you're going to need, it includes a photo of your item, so make sure you pick the right one in your lead photo, that sort of thing. So it's got a good amount of features already built in.
And the only other thing I'm going to say about line sheet generators is, yes, you have to have them. Yes, they are important. But I'm going to go back to what I said right at the very beginning. Own your own destiny. Retailers are not scary. They just need information. They really aren't scary, and they aren't trying to hurt you. They're trying to sell your product, and they just need information. So own your own destiny with them. And the more information you give them, the more friendly they're going to be, and the more likely they are going to be to get to buy your product, because they need the information to be able to sell your product, because they want to make money too. Yeah, buyers are typically incredibly overwhelmed, and they are typically seeing way too many products, and retailers don't necessarily treat their buyers incredibly well. They typically give buyers too many categories and too many items at a time, and they typically are just incredibly overwhelmed. And the more information you can give them, and the more helpful you can be to a buyer, especially the larger the retailer you're working with. And I know a lot of us makers work with very, very small individual shops, but if you think about it, those small individual shops are no different than us makers, right? So they're small businesses, so they're even more stressed than the big retailers and the big buyers, right? So the more you can help them, they're not the enemy. Help them. Be kind to them. Don't think of them as trying to pull one over on you. Help them and give them more information, and they will be helpful to you, and they will be kind to you, and they will build relationships with you. On to how to attract buyers, which is probably the biggest, most scariest part of Etsy Wholesale closing down for some of us. Because it was a platform that had promised to attract buyers for us. And there are others out there now saying that they're going to do the same thing, and we very much appreciate those that are opening their doors, saying that they're going to do the same thing. But again, we shouldn't rely on just those out there that are saying they're going to do the same thing. We should take our destiny into our own hands and start looking for those buyers on our own, and we should do our own marketing. And we should look at some other options.
So when it comes to reaching out to your local community and your local stores, here's the thing. If you're a maker and you're anything like me, your studio is your life. You get up in the morning, you go to work in your studio, and then suddenly it's 8 o'clock at night, you probably haven't eaten yet, and you're lucky if you've gotten out of the clothes you woke up in. Going out and actually reaching out into your local community is probably the best thing you can do for yourself this year. It'll get you out of your house, it'll get you talking to people, and it'll get people interested in your stuff in the local community. Chances are anywhere that you live, but it's critical that you get up, you go out, and you just ask. Just put out the ask. And even if they say no, that's all right, that's just one less person you gotta worry about next time. Remember, no is one more step to yes, and that's all it really is. So, get up, shower, put on your clothes, get out the door, and go find where your work should be.
There are trade shows. They are expensive, I know, and they are time consuming, I know. And as makers, some of us are single people in our own shops or our own studios, and we don't have time to do them, or we can't afford the $5,000 or $10,000 that some shows cost to do. I understand all of those things. Trust me, we've had this experience ourselves. But they are important. And you can look at, there's a lot of ways to get around some of that. Look at similar makers even, and try to look for regional shows, or if it's a national show, partner with other makers to be able to get to that national level show, so that it makes sense to be able to do a $10,000 show if you're partnered up with another maker that's like East Coast, West Coast maker, and it makes sense to be able to do a national show at a $5,000 or $10,000 level. And pick the right shows that make sense for you.
So, talking a little bit about trade shows here for a second, we did a very large trade show last year. Depending on the trade show, you can either move tons of work or you may move no work. The important thing is this to remember with trade shows. It is an investment. You're gonna put in a lot of work, you're gonna have a lot of stuff made for it, and the idea isn't that it's a one-shot deal. The idea is that if you get into trade shows, you should keep doing the trade shows so that you're actually using and spending, and you're using what you spent over and over and over again. Because it can be a pretty costly thing, having banners made, having a booth built, all of that sort of thing. So, unless you're ready, don't jump right into the trade show scene unless you are absolutely positive that it is what you are going to be doing. They're a lot of work, they're tiring, they can be extremely lucrative and profitable. And if you have any questions about that or want to know about our experience, feel free to reach out and email us using the link included below.
I'm going to add one more point to the trade show conversation, and that is there are also what's called seller shows. So depending on the size and your goal, size of your business and your goals, there are what is called seller shows. And there's one specifically that's called ECRM. So what that is a group of very specifically it's retailer specific seller shows, and they have shows that are all throughout the year, and they are broken up by types of categories. So they have like gifting shows, they have grocery specific shows, they have wine and beverage shows. I've attended many of them over my career. They have food service shows. They specifically will pair you off with meetings in 20 and 30-minute increments with buyers, depending on your category and the buyer's interest in you. So they are typically 3-day meetings, and you get a schedule in advance. They are not inexpensive shows. They range anywhere from $7,000 to $15,000, but they are 3-day meetings, and you get a full book schedule with buyers in 20-minute increments for all 3 days. So there are more than that one, but there are shows like that as well. So depending on the size of your business, there are a lot of different options with retailers, depending on what you're looking for. Matchmaking services, there's Wholesale in a Box, there's Indigo Fair, and I know that there's a lot of conversation about Indigo Fair right now, and that plenty of us have all tried and been turned down, or they're not. And I understand that Indigo Fair is a lot of just Bed Bath and Body Work type stuff, or they're not necessarily paying attention to the European markets, or I know that there's a lot of conversation about them, but there's a lot of other matchmaking services out there. Amazon has its own wholesale division that you can look into that has been becoming more and more successful lately.
So matchmaking services are a fantastic, very simple, and probably very familiar solution if you're leaving Etsy Wholesale, or in this case, Etsy Wholesale has left you. Here's the thing though, if you're anything like me, you're fired up about being out there and doing it on your own and doing it yourself. I'm not a big fan of having a middleman. I'm not a big fan of anybody getting a cut of anything that it is that I'm doing, because then it boosts my prices up to cover the fact that I have to give somebody else a cut. I would rather engage the customer directly and go ahead and give them the lowest possible price, because then chances are they're gonna buy it. Now it means I usually need to do my own marketing, I need to do my own advertising. Yes, it's a heck of a lot of work. All of that said, if you're really comfortable and you've been good in Etsy Wholesale so far, these middleman services are awesome and a fantastic chance. There's a lot of them just exploding out of the blue thanks to Etsy Wholesale going under. So go ahead and check those out, see if they might be for you, but don't be afraid to put your foot in the water and go out there and try it on your own. There's a very good chance that if your work is good and you're willing to do the work necessary to go ahead and be your own wholesaler, you can do it. Just means you're going to have to put in the work. That scares a lot of people. It's okay. So let's talk about Amazon for just a second then too. Amazon is an unbelievable opportunity for the entire making community. Whether or not it's Amazon Handmade or Amazon Wholesale, it's a great way to get your stuff out there and in front of literally billions of people if you're willing to work internationally, unless you happen to deal with the GPDR, which we're not going to talk about right now. So it's just a fantastic way to work with it. There's easy integration into Shopify. Again, we're not being paid by Shopify, but it's just a good thing to say. So Amazon is a great way to get your stuff in front of a lot of people and to not have to do a tremendous amount of work in order to do it.
There's also targeted, there's a lot of other options. You can do targeted direct mail. So think about who, from a B2B standpoint, would be interested in you. So we're in the arts side of the business. So we do original art, high-end original art, as well as canvas reproductions, as well as handmade home goods and licensed goods. So for a targeted business for us would be interior designers, for instance, or high-end real estate agents. Just as an example, that's one of our targets. We have multiples, but that would be one of our targets. So example would be for us, just using us as an example, would be to go after, let's say, 500 high-end real estate agents or interior designers and specifically offering them a free canvas to put into their offices or into one of their listings, just to get them to bite, because that would be a good wholesale account for us. That would be a high-end targeted, very specific targeted account for an interior designer or high-end real estate. So think about who would be your target, things like that. Influencers and bloggers, those are really good. Think about who would be your right fit. Who's going to be, is it somebody that's in the sewing and crafting world that really strikes home with a Bed Bath & Beyond or those types of shops? Or is it surf shops? Or, you know, what's your niche target? And partner up there.
Influencers are a fantastic way of getting people to look at your work and to sort of get a little bit of credibility out there. They tend to not cost a ton of money. Some of them do. Some of them are very, very expensive. Some of them are not. Some influencers really just want whatever it is that you're making, and then they will go ahead and advertise it. So if you're making really, really nice leather bags, chances are there are really solid influencers out there that will be willing, more than willing, to put their neck out there for you and advertise your product basically by giving it a recommendation if you give them one of them. If you make smaller items, smaller, more inexpensive items, be prepared to put out a little bit more than maybe what it is that you make, because they're going to want something in exchange for their word or their credibility. So, but it's a great way to get your work out there. It's a great way to have people see it. We've done it a couple of times in a couple of different ways, and we've had really, really good reactions to it. So, again, there's also, I think there's Shopify integration. Yes, I know there is. There's Shopify integration for influencers as well. There are also influencer services out there. Social media is a great place to go ahead and find those. Again, great way to just get your work out there.
There's also sales brokers that will do small to medium size sales companies and pick up commission-based only target counts like that can do sales and distribution depending on your quantities. So there's a lot of different options that way that you can look at.
Thanks for watching and enjoy the document. Take care, good luck, and go get them.
If there's anything else we can help you with, please let us know. Thanks.
And hey, I am pretty.